Hi guys, JT here, and today I'm bringing you some information on Fanatical's New Realms bundle of April 2023. To help you answer the question, should you buy it? If you'd like to know more about game bundles, feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel out. Anyway, let's get into this. And number 1 we have Escape the Backrooms, a thrilling horror game based around a popular creepypasta about the mysteries of the backrooms. The premise of the game is simple. You find yourself trapped in the backrooms, a strange and terrifying place that you need to escape. Along the way, you'll encounter many monsters and obstacles that you must overcome to survive and reach your goal. The game has a bit of a learning curve, especially in the first level, but once you get a hang of the controls, you'll find that it is quite fun. You'll need to find essential items that are scattered throughout the game, which adds an element of risk to the gameplay. One of the strengths of this game is the variety of maps. Each map is visually different and presents unique challenges. You'll need to adapt your strategies to each new challenge to stay alive. Additionally, the sound design is fantastic, with each monster having unique noises that you need to listen carefully to locate. You can have up to 4 players in a back room, running around, and you can communicate with your teammates using proximity voice chat. However, you need to be careful not to wander too far away, as the back rooms are confusing, and you can easily get lost. Furthermore, if you make too much noise, the entities will hear you and come for you, adding another layer of tension to the game. It is highly recommended that you play with friends, as playing with random players can cause some frustration, especially those that tend to leave before completing levels. Overall, Escape the Backrooms is a great horror game, played solo or with friends, and it is perfect for newcomers to the genre as well as veterans. The game is tense and scary, but not so much that it will make you want to quit. So if you're a fan of horror games and like being scared while you play, this is a game for you. And number 2 we have Elderand, a Metroidvania style game that boasts impressive features and strong gameplay, making it worthy of recognition. You assume the role of a hired mercenary with the mission of banishing a powerful evil from the realm. The game's world is immersive, with plenty of lore to give the setting weight, and the tutorial is simple but effective, explaining the game's basic mechanics and equipment. Elderand's combat system is diverse, with various weapons such as swords, staffs, whips, and daggers, each of their own strengths and weaknesses. You can acquire and purchase materials to enhance your weapons and armor, offering a variety of options for customization. The game has a plethora of enemies, including elemental spirits, knights, and bandits, to keep the game feeling fresh and not repetitive. Despite the small size of the map, Elderand's exploration and level design are impressive. The surroundings are diversified and concentrated, with you having the freedom to travel around different areas. However, specific areas are sealed off until you have acquired certain items, providing you with additional skills. Although Elderand has some minor issues, such as grayed out options that are not available until later in the game, and a difficulty in managing money to buy better equipment, these do not significantly impact the overall gameplay experience. In summary, Elderand is a great addition to the Metroidvania genre, with its immersive world, diverse combat system, and impressive level design. You'll enjoy exploring the game's world, murdering a variety of enemies, and discovering new equipment to enhance your murdering abilities. Despite some minor issues, Elderand is definitely worth checking out for fans of Metroidvania-style games. And number 3 we have Clunky Hero, a platformer Metroidvania game that unfortunately does not manage to captivate its players. You play as Rufus, on your quest to save your wife from the evil one, using a variety of household appliances. While the premise seems interesting enough, the game's execution leaves much to be desired. One of the main issues with Clunky Hero is its shallow storyline and one-dimensional characters. The game does little to develop the characters beyond cliched archetypes, and their interactions with each other feel forced and obnoxious. Additionally, the fourth wall breaking humor may come across as trying too hard to be funny, and ultimately reinforces tired stereotypes. Furthermore, while the game's controls are easy to learn, the UI can feel clunky and unintuitive, which can be a frustrating experience for players. The gameplay also becomes repetitive after a while, with players needing to solve quests and acquire better items to unlock new areas. While this is a common feature of the Metroidvania genre, Clunky Hero fails to offer anything unique or exciting in this regard. Overall, while Clunky Hero is not a terrible game, it ultimately falls short in several key areas. The lack of depth in the storyline and characters, combined with the clunky UI and repetitive gameplay, make it difficult for the game to stand out in the genre. If you're looking for a platformer Metroidvania game to play, there are certainly better options available that offer more engaging gameplay and storylines. But since it is in this bundle anyway, you can't really get away from it. Like a pest. And number 4 we have Orbital Bullet, a fast-paced 360-degree action platformer with roguelite elements where all actions take place in a circular pattern. The game features a unique level design, where every surface is a ring, and the gameplay takes place on a series of rings that you traverse as if you're on a conventional 2D plane. You move left or right to move around the ring, and sometimes there are inner or outer rings that you can switch between. Long-range weaponry can eliminate enemies from afar, or by going all the way around the ring and hitting something directly behind you. The game has a home base where you can spend points in your skill tree to give yourself abilities, passive bonuses, or benefits like increasing merchant stock options, and 4 playable classes. Weapons have levels, and you can spend gears to raise the maximum and minimum levels, giving you access to stronger weapons. The game has a dozen weapons unlocked at the start, which spawn in random chests or are sold by merchants, and sometimes enemies will drop weapon blueprints that can be unlocked by spending gears. The game also has a system for acquiring upgrades, allowing you to purchase something over the span of several runs by carrying over points. Orbital Bullet is a fascinating game with unique gameplay and level design that combines action, platformer, and roguelite elements. And number 5 we have DreadX Collection 3, a collection of 12 games where participating developers were tasked with creating spooky and cute hybrid games within 10 days. The hub in this collection is not as impressive as the one in DX2, with fewer puzzles and an easier way to unlock the games by finding ritual candles. However, the addition of periodic dialogue with a ghost in your character's head is a good idea but poorly executed. It's still an okay environment to explore, but not a significant loss if you opt for free play. Bubbo, Adventure on Gerald's Island is an excellent game to start with in this collection. The adorable setting, funny dialogues, and solid platforming controls make for an enjoyable experience. Though the endings may leave a bit to be desired, it's a minor flaw in an otherwise polished game. Reactor boasts phenomenal aesthetics and presentation throughout, with cinematic experiences and breathtaking views, aside from a slightly goofy segment near the end. Though it may not be as stylized as Solipsis, it's still a solid scary spacewalk. Matter Over Mind has a solid concept, but is hampered by poor execution, from janky controls to spotty hit detection. It feels like an authentic PS1 demo, but not one that would sell many copies. Chip's Tips is another great submission, fully realizing and utilizing its scope and concept with hilarious results. The barrage of jokes and excellent voice acting make up for the lack of spooks. Soul Waste is a love letter to the PS1 era, taking full advantage of modern technology without compromising the look and feel of the time. The controls take some getting used to, but once you do, it's a fun experience with momentum trickery, smooth controls, and some repetitive music. Subtle Wonderland is a short story-focused game that involves figuring out why an AI did something. Though the twist may be disappointing, the game's length is just about right, making it an enjoyable experience but not one to revisit. The opening of Disparity of the Dead is fantastic, with a strong hook of collecting soul orbs and piecing together clues while interacting with the quirky NPCs. The PS1-inspired visuals and unsettling audio add to the experience, but the ending falls short of expectations. Despite its flaws, Disparity of the Dead has left a lasting impression. Nice Screams at Funfair is a game with 2 short films as bookends and a playable center. Although the opening and ending sequences are interactive, they are mostly on rails. However, the stunning visuals and music make up for the lack of agency, resulting in an enjoyable experience. Submission, a meta game with clever comedy, was not engaging to play. The simple puzzles are stretched out with unskippable transitions and repeated puzzle sequences, making it a slog to progress. The game feels like the inverse of Nice Screams, forcing players to endure tedium instead of moving things along with a cutscene. Spookware at the Video Store is a microgame collection that integrates horror movie mainstays, but the games are not fun to play. Some games require memorization and barely function when the game speeds up. Eden, Garden of the Faultless combines a Chaos Garden with Monster Rancher and features Old Testament angels. Despite not being a fan of pet sim games, Eden is one of the most unique games in the DreadX entry. The textureless look and unsettling ambiance along with the creature designs make it a winner. Beat Grease is a cute riff on the doing the mundane tasks until they become less mundane horror subgenre. The game's pivot halfway through is memorable, turning the game on its head in a disturbing yet entertaining way. The likable lead character adds to the experience. Overall, DX3 has some low points, but it doesn't sink as low as DreadX1. The games are becoming increasingly polished with each release, and DreadX remains one of the best indie horror collections out there. And number 6 we have DreadX Collection 2, a collection of another 12 games by indie developers and sequel to the obviously DreadX Collection 1. This game features a playable main menu and varied style of gameplay and horror, with a general overall theme of Lovecraft. Unlike the first collection, DreadX 2 begins inside a playable game where you explore a PS1 aesthetic mansion in first person, with 12 different puzzles to solve in the house and its surroundings to unlock the collection's 12 titles. Toy Shop, a game that features a post-apocalyptic world where you control a soldier who turns out to be a toy. The game shifts between a bizarre fairy tale fantasy look and a dark facility where you must defend yourself against creepy, derelict madmen and avoid the ever-pursuing robots. The beginning is slow to start, but once you get to the Condemned-like settings, it becomes one of the better experiences in DreadX 2. To the End of Days is a post-apocalyptic game where you wake up in a city overrun by doomsday cultists and must hunt them down to escape. The game has an 80s sci-fi synth music and a surreal atmosphere of the main character's narration. Ammo is limited, so melee is often the only option, but the game is enjoyable nonetheless. The final chapter offers pure bliss as you clear out a roof full of cultists. Undiscovered is a unique second-person walking sim where you control the main character being filmed by a documentary camera person in an ancient tomb in South America. The game has some straightforward puzzles, strange statues, and notes left by Spanish conquistadors. The enemies are silly, spouting sound bites from Resident Evil 4, making the game hilarious and enjoyable. In Touched by the Outer God, a first-person Twitch shooter game, you play as a protagonist murdering enemies and consuming their body parts to become stronger. The game has a unique cel-shaded art style and an enjoyable upgrade system. It is similar to Doom and it is recommended. In Charlotte's Exile, you must decode a note to find your missing wife in a Lovecraftian world. The puzzle game takes place in one room, with notes and objects piecing together the story. With jump scares and well-done puzzles, the game is satisfying and worth playing. In Sucker for Love, you'll play a dating sim game where you pursue a tentacle-faced anime girl who is a rival of Cthulhu. You'll complete rituals and incantations to show your love, with some creepy and tense moments. The game has multiple endings, and takes only 30 to 45 minutes to complete. This game was also featured in Humble's recent Valentine's Day bundle. The Thing in the Lake is a short game with visuals and gameplay reminiscent of 1980s computer adventures. It includes unique 1-bit jump scares and primitive stealth mechanics that are well implemented. However, the retro visual style sometimes makes it unclear where you can move, and it doesn't offer anything new. In Arcade Letra, you play as an arcade owner who receives a strange package that turns out to be a portal to another world. Although the game has interesting visuals and concepts, the gameplay is repetitive and consists of clicking on something and watching a cutscene without much variance. Overall, it's a commendable effort, but a little rough around the edges. In Another Late Night, you navigate a full desktop PC to experience a surreal short story about existentialism. The game has similarities to titles like Fallout and Superhot, but its impact is not significant due to its brief duration of 15 to 20 minutes. Solipsis begins by establishing the theme of isolation and the fear of being alone on the moon, and it delivers on that front. It's a brief 15 to 20 minutes experience, but the game's distinctive imagery is fleeting yet worth experiencing. In The Diving Bell, you play as a protagonist who goes insane from isolation while attempting to survive deep-sea horror. The game features a unique mechanic where you type on your keyboard to make the character type out on his journal. However, the gameplay tasks that pull you away from the journal were frequent and repetitive, and the game failed to be captivating. Squirrel Stapler is a parody game that mimics the 3D hunting simulators of the 90s. However, it ends up being a disappointing experience, with little variance from the standard formula of bad hunting games. Despite some macabre touches, it's ultimately a chore to play. The game's absurd premise involving a hunter who keeps his wife's corpse in a cabin and hunts giant squirrels is the only aspect that stands out. DreadX 2 brings together more developers and games than DreadX 1, but some of them feel lackluster or underdeveloped. Although it lacks the impact of the first collection, it's still a solid package on its own, with a bigger gap in quality and memorability between some of the titles. With 10 to 15 hours of content, it's worth a play. And number 7 we have Restless Soul, an indie game that offers a refreshing break from visually striking AAA horror titles. The game's story is simple. You're dead, and you want to go back to your old life. The main character, who is often the butt of every joke, breaks the fourth wall and interacts directly with you. The quips and gags are delightful, although some may find them excessive. Restless Soul is unashamedly generic, and the characters are archetypes, but they fit perfectly into the game's oddity. The game offers choices that don't matter, and presents you with humorous dialogue options that guarantee some or other joke. The gameplay is simple, with not much to learn, and you'll need to dodge, fight, and solve simple puzzles to progress. The game's graphics are monochromatic, which can be a refreshing change from the usual visually stunning games. The audio is also what it says on the tin. The game has some pop culture references, but it doesn't rely too heavily on them to drive its humor. Restless Soul is more than meets the eye. The quirky sense of humor may catch your attention, but it is the offbeat and dry humor that will keep you hooked. The game is not trying to reinvent the wheel or tell an epic story, it's just trying to make people laugh. The characters are not meant for grand character development, but they're goofy personas that fit perfectly into the game's oddity. The game is designed to be digested in bite-sized chunks, and you'll not have difficulty picking the game up again after taking a break. Restless Soul is worth checking out if you're looking for something to cleanse your palate between visually striking AAA horror titles. And that's all for this bundle. This bundle is actually pretty good with some newer games and also a collection of 24 shorter horror games to sink your teeth in. Although some of the games can be frustrating and forgettable, there are some gems in there, like Escape the Backrooms and Orbital Bullet. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.